All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. And I'm back here. It is now officially Thursday because it's past midnight now. It is Thursday, August the 7th. Yeah, August the 7th of 2025. So hope you all had a good week or good Wednesday so far. Just got through watching Dynamite a couple hours ago. I did a short, basically giving my thoughts on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that video and everything. And the next couple days, really the next week, is going to be pretty eventful for me. In just a little over a day from now, yours truly will be at a pretty big anime convention known as Otakon in Washington, D.C. Of course, I made mention of this multiple times. I made a post about this on here. I made a video about it, full-on video, on my anime channel, Phantom Anime Reviewer. So on Friday, of course, another day plus or so from now, I will be at Otakon in DC, and I'm enjoying myself. And I'll be posting photos, and I'll be making a video vlog basically of my experience. Sharing my experience here. On my Phantom Anime Reviewer channel. So I'm looking forward to that. And then next week, a week from Saturday, I will be at my first ever TNA wrestling event as TNA comes to the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Arena in Baltimore. You guys should know about that, of course, and I'll be kind of updating you on what all I plan on doing, as we lead up to next Saturday, as I lead up to next Saturday on the 16th when I go to that TNA show. So it's gonna be eventful next couple weeks for me. And hope you guys have been enjoying the content and all that kind of stuff. And before I kind of get started with this video, I want to go ahead and be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment after this video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, man, if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support I can get. Very close to hitting 950 subs here on the channel. We are just over 50 subs away from my ultimate goal, which is the big 1K, 1,000 subs. So we're very close to getting there, man. I believe we're going to get there by the end of this month. I firmly believe we're going to get there by the end of this month. So very excited for that. But anyway, so here tonight with this video, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking of making a video, just kind of sharing my thoughts and opinions on this. I want to talk about this whole WWE Unreal series that they've been, airing, and that a lot of people have been talking about in the wrestling world for really the last few months now. It's kind of been one of the big focal points of the wrestling world, specifically in terms of WWE for the last few months, and it's been quite a hot button topic, a controversial, polarizing topic, that being this series. So if you don't know, WWE Unreal is basically this new, kind of behind the scenes, if you will, look. This new show that WWE airs on Netflix as part of course, their whole streaming deal with Netflix. And it's the series that is kind of like, basically a documentary of sorts. And it gives you like a never before seen, backstage, if you will, look at WWE, like in terms of how they do their shows, not just in terms, it's not like anything they've done previously. Like, it's not like a typical reality show. Like, it's not one of those kinds. It kind of goes a step beyond that, where they actually literally show you how the shows are made, how they're produced, what the ins and outs are of what they do on a regular basis when it comes to a WWE show. They show footage of, behind the curtain, in the gorilla, in the production trucks. I think in these episodes they've shown production meetings or, creative meetings. They show you, how matches are made, how, storylines are booked and things of that nature, how shows are basically put together. And it's really a kind of an in-depth, comprehensive view of how WWE is run, pretty much, from a creative side, from the wrestling side, when in terms of the shows. And so they've been doing this, they've been airing this for quite some time now. I think it started like around early mid July. I can't remember when they first started airing it, but it was within the last few months. And they've been airing it exclusively on their Netflix, exclusively on Netflix, on the streaming service, because again, WWE has a partnership with Netflix right now. And so this series has been the talk of, of fans, of WWE, and it's been the talk of, just the IWC and, the pro wrestling realm in general, or the pro wrestling fandom in general. Mostly, obviously, like I said, a very controversial, polarizing series with a lot of criticism. A lot of people, have quite a bit to say about it. Be it podcasters, other content creators here on YouTube, or people on social media in general, people in the IWC in general, have had quite a bit to say about this series since the idea of it first came out months earlier this year, and now that they start airing the episodes. Very controversial. In the sense that there are some people who I'm sure enjoy it or like it. They say, they might say it gives people a insider's kind of perspective of WWE, and that's for that side, it may be kind of an interesting or a different take on seeing what WWE, seeing how WWE is run. But the vast majority of things that I've heard in terms of the feedback of the series is, it's not good. It's bad for the business. It exposes the business. It exposes pro wrestling, and it's just like, generally speaking, it's for many years, pro wrestling was one of those entities that was, people inside of the business, did their utmost, or did, what they had to do to protect, the business, to not reveal the secrets of the business. It's kind of like, when it comes to, like, say, a magic show or a magician, a magician never reveals their secrets or whatever. It's kind of like, that's kind of how pro wrestling has been run. For years, people fought to protect the business and, protect the ins and outs of the business and things like that, and not expose the secrets. Well, this series is basically showing everybody, or showing, pretty much the entire viewing audience and the general public, how a pro wrestling company is run, or at the very least how WWE is run, from a true, like I said, exclusive, behind the scenes, never before seen way. And, there are people both in terms of the fandom, people who work in pro wrestling have given their thoughts on this, people who used to be in pro wrestling, podcasters and, journalists, and all up and down the wrestling landscape, people are giving their thoughts about this. And it's mostly negative. It's mostly, there's a ton of criticism, a ton of people saying, this series is not good for pro wrestling, exposes the business. It's all but, diminishes, all but kills kayfabe, what little bit of kayfabe was left, or what little shreds of kayfabe was left. And that's not to say that the business, pro wrestling hasn't been, kind of exposed, or, a lot of the things within pro wrestling haven't been exposed in some form or fashion in the last 20, 30 years, with the rise of the internet, the rise of, dirt sheets and wrestling sites and things of that nature. And, people, who worked within the business, be it wrestlers or higher ups, bookers or producers, or people who work in creative, people who work as, managers or road agents and stuff like that, people who work within the business, who have come out and basically spoken on their time, or, their experiences in the business, no matter what promotion, no matter what wrestling promotion they were a part of. And so a lot of, fans, people who don't work in wrestling, have kind of been basically exposed to how pro wrestling is run behind the scenes. But this series, this WWE Unreal series, kind of takes it to another level. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism is coming from. Now, I just want to kind of give you, now that I kind of told you that, I just kind of want to give you my take on it. You see, I've not watched this series up to this point. I am genuinely interested in, at least seeing an episode or two, checking it out, just to see how it is. I've seen the previews and stuff. And I did, before I started recording this video, I actually watched on WWE's YouTube page, on WWE's YouTube channel, they had a clip of this series. They had a clip of this WWE Unreal, of a clip from one of their episodes, a 5-minute video, where it's basically showing kind of the behind the scenes stuff, or showing the kind of behind the scenes moments from the John Cena heel turn back earlier this year at Elimination Chamber, where you see kind of the process, and how, Triple H was like back in like the production truck, or wherever he was, back in the production truck or grill, wherever he was, And he was basically giving verbal cues to all the people on the team, on his team, be a, or either cameraman or, producers, whoever. And he was basically giving verbal cues to everybody. He's saying, "Oh, I want this guy to be here. Cody Rhodes is going to go out to the ring. He's going to say this. John Cena's going to come out. He's going to say this. The Rock's going to come out. Then Travis Scott's going to come out. And then Cena and Rock are going to exchange promos. Cody Rhodes and Rock are going to exchange promos, and Cena's going to do this, and then I want a full shot of the ring. I want a full shot. I want a two-shot. I want a shot of Cena's face, shot of Rock's face, but so on and so forth. And so basically, this clip is kind of showing you a behind-the-scenes perspective of what is going on. Whenever someone is watching, like, a WWE show, be it a PLE like this one or a Raw or SmackDown episode, it kind of is showing what all is going on behind the curtain. Like, how WWE, how, Triple H and whoever's in production, whoever's directing the show is basically kind of directing, giving cues to whoever, and all the kind of, showing the camera work and all that kind of, how all that is being done, basically. And so it basically showed, Triple H, like I said, giving the verbal cues. And then we saw, of course, the moment where Cena turned heel, attacked Cody Rhodes in the ring with The Rock and with Travis Scott and all that. And so, yeah, the 5-minute clip of, that was a 5-minute clip, a 5-minute snippet of, a WWE Unreal episode. And so after seeing that, I kind of got the idea to do this video, just kind of get my thoughts on what I saw. And again, I know it's only 5 minutes of it, like I said, I am contemplating watching, the full episodes, at some point whenever I get the chance to. But I kind of want to give my take on the whole thing. Now, just on the surface, the concept of WWE Unreal and the concept of them just kind of showing people, or basically airing out, or having cameras backstage and showing the creative process, how matches are done, how Triple H and others behind the curtain are running the shows and giving verbal cues to the cameraman and the other and the producers and the stagehands and the commentators, and just showing the whole creative process, basically showing how WWE is run. Just seeing that, it's kind of like, it is exposing the business. It is killing kayfabe. And it's just a thing of, is it exposing the business? Yes, it is. Is it basically killing kayfabe, more so than it's already been, more so than it already has been? Yes, it is. But does WWE care? Absolutely not. Of course they don't care. Of course they don't care. Because that being WWE, they never really had any kind of real respect or appreciation for pro wrestling anyway. And this dates back to when Vince McMahon was running it. Like, this dates back to way back when. We have always heard stuff. We have always heard the rumors or reports and stuff of people coming out and saying Vince McMahon never liked pro wrestling. I mean, he basically had like, he basically kind of had like a list of ban words and shit, and or things that people can't say on air, or things that people just can't say in general. Well, while in WWE, in WWF/WWE under his rule, and he literally had the word pro wrestling banned. You cannot people who were in the company, whenever they were doing a show, be it commentators, announcers, the wrestlers themselves, they could not say pro wrestling. They could not say the words pro wrestling on air. He literally banned the term pro wrestling on a wrestling show. You cannot describe what it is the guys are doing in the ring. No, it has to be sports entertainment. That was his word for it. Because he didn't want people saying fucking pro wrestling. That's how much this guy disliked pro wrestling. And there's just a whole lot of, he had various, things, various idiosyncrasies, nuances, whatever. He obviously, the dude was fucking messed up. I mean, that much was obvious, even well before we found out all the shit about him. But, it's just like, he had no respect for pro wrestling. And a vast majority of people in WWE, aside from him, his fucking minions, the people who worked under him, they had no real respect for pro wrestling. Now, there might be a handful of people who did, but a large portion of his camp, like the Vince Russos of the world, and, of course, we all know the fucking story of Vince Russo, he hates pro wrestling. And a lot of these guys, fucking like, I'll bet you, like guys like Bruce Pritchard, these guys don't care about pro wrestling. And it's no different now that they're run by TK, now that they're owned by TKO. It was no different when they were under Vince, when Vince owned WWE, when the McMahon family owned WWE outright. And it's no different now that they're owned by Endeavor and owned by TKO. They could care less about pro wrestling. They could care less about exposing the business. They don't want to protect pro wrestling. They could give a fuck less. They could give a shit less. Because they're going to make their money regardless of how this paints them in terms of the pro wrestling realm, regardless of how this looks on them, from a business or from just a general sense of like their public image. They don't care. They don't care how this looks because they're going to make their money regardless. They think that this series is their way. If they believe that this series is their way of garnering interest into the product and into what they're doing, they'll fucking expose the business all day because they don't care. Because again, they're going to make their money regardless. They're going to make their money regardless. They got their fucking $1 billion TV deals with USA, fucking USA and CW and whoever. With USA right now, they did have a $1 billion deal with Fox, but that's, they're no longer on Fox anymore. They got the fucking $5-10 billion streaming deal with Netflix that lasts for 10 years, which right now is not looking too good. I mean, Netflix actually has an option to opt out after 5 years, so we'll see how that goes. And then there's there was news earlier today about WWE's PLEs moving to another streaming service. Moving to ESPN is apparently having another streaming service, and they just partner with WWE. So I'll cover that in a future video. I'll talk about that because I got some things to say about that too. But you got $1 billion TV deal with fucking NBC Universal and USA, and the TV deal they got with CW with fucking NXT. They got the $1 billion, billions of dollars, fucking $5-10 billion TV deal they got with Netflix. They got all their fucking sponsorship deals. They got every year they go over to Saudi Arabia for fucking 2 or so shows, getting $50 to $100 million per show. They're gonna make their money, folks. They're gonna make their money regardless. Whether the shows are good or bad, they're going to make their money regardless. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all they give a shit about. Making their fucking money, making a profit. That's all they care about. They don't give a shit if the shows are good or bad. They don't care if the fans are gonna enjoy it or not. Because they know that there's a vast majority of people who are gonna watch it regardless of how good or bad it is. They don't care that ticket sales are down. They don't care that the viewership is down. Because again, they're going to fucking make their money regardless. It was the same thing when Vince was running it. He didn't give a shit because he was going to get his fucking money regardless. He was going to get his fucking bag regardless. They don't care that it exposes the business. They don't care that it exposes pro wrestling. They're not trying to protect it in the slightest. They don't give a shit. If anything, I would wager that they're trying to expose the business by doing a series like this. Or to me, it's more so that they want to garner interest in this way. They think that a series like this is going to garner interest. Like it's their own personal, exclusive reality series. I bet you that's how they view it. But ultimately, a show like this is going to hurt pro wrestling. Now, is it going to hurt them to the point where wrestling is going to die off or some shit like that, or people are just going to lose interest in it entirely? I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think in terms of WWE, it's going to be bad. But I think pro wrestling will be fine. But I'm just saying the idea of them exposing the business to the public's eye, to not just wrestling fans, not just WWE fans, but like anybody, be it a fan or not, be it into pro wrestling or not. This exposes the business in a way that is irreversible. And that, I think, is where all the criticism and the negativity in regards to it is coming from. But, again, they don't fucking care. WWE doesn't care. Because they're going to get their bag regardless. And that's the problem. And that is going to be the problem as long as they remain as corporate as they are. So, for me personally, I understand why they're doing it. And they're probably likely going to continue to do it. I think it's personally a bad thing for pro wrestling. I think wrestling needs to be protected. It needs to be honored. But WWE clearly does not care about that. And that should tell you. This series right here, the fact that they even conceived the series, just goes to show you that they don't care about it. And so, yeah, I mean, what more is there to say than that? And so, and you look at the grand scheme, you look at the grand scope of where WWE is right now, because creatively they are losing a lot of steam. You know, they're, again, I mentioned before, you know, the ticket sales for the shows are down. The viewership is down for, you know, SmackDown and for NXT. You know, the Netflix, you know, that Raw on Netflix isn't doing as well as they initially thought. It started out, you know, decent enough. You know, they had like 5-6 million viewers globally. Now they can barely get over 2 million, like 2.5. And Netflix seeing that, and they're kind of like, hey, what's the deal? We thought, you know, this show was gonna do well, and it's not doing as well as advertised. And I'm sure WWE sees that, and they're kind of scrambling around to try to find some kind of answer. And then you got the news that came out today or yesterday that WWE is moving their PLEs to ESPN. Why not move the PLEs to Netflix? You already got a deal with Netflix. Why get a separate deal for ESPN for their freaking for the pay-per-views or for the PLEs or whatever? You know? And like I said, I'm going to cover that in a future video because I got a few things to say about that. But in regards to WWE Unreal, it's obvious what this is. WWE wants to expose the business. They don't care that they're exposing the business. They don't care that they're getting negative backlash and feedback from people within, you know, pro wrestling and this, that, and the third, and the fan base and whatever, because they want to make their money. They want to garner interest any way they can, and this to them is an easy way to do so. And it's just a little sad that they have to be as that they have to. They're so desperate, and they lack such creativity that they're going to go to these lengths to try to garner interest. It's very telling. It's very telling. But yeah, so that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I just don't like. Depending on how long it goes, like I don't know, like how many episodes it is or how long it'll go or this, that, and the third. I guess we'll see. And like I said, I'm contemplating, you know, watching them myself just to see kind of where, you know, where all it comes from. I did, like I said, I did watch a clip of it on their YouTube channel, which kind of gives me an idea as to how it's going to be done. But it's just bad. It's just bad. It's going to be bad for the business. And again, WWE doesn't give a shit. They really don't. They really don't care. And that's kind of where we are. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. So that's all I got to say on the matter for now. So if I do watch, you know, these episodes in the future, I'll give you guys, you know, if I get the chance to, I'll give a kind of review or reaction or whatever have you to the episodes themselves if I do decide to watch them. But that's all I got to say for that, just based on the clip, you know, the 5-minute video I saw on their YouTube channel in regards to this Unreal series. And that's my thoughts on it. That's my general thoughts on it. So that's pretty much all I got to say for now. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment, give me your thoughts on anything I talked about here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support I can get. And with that being said, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, man. So once again, hope you all had a good one. Hope you all have a good rest of your night. I'll be back for more content. I got some more videos planned. You know, this is going to be a pretty interesting weekend. Like I said, Otakon is going to be Friday, so I'm going to be busy, you know, certainly on Friday, and, you know, I'm going to have a busy weekend, and, you know, and then, again, a week from Saturday, I'll be at the TNA show, so it's going to be a busy next couple weeks. It's going to be a fun next couple weeks for yours truly. But anyway, that's all I got to say for now. Thank you for watching. Till next time, Wrestling Otaku, I'm out. See you guys later. Peace.